Welcome everybody to the latest video in my Lord of the Rings Online series, and today it's all about what class should I play in Lord of the Rings Online in 2023. Maybe you've never played the game before, maybe you've played the game but you haven't been back in a while. A lot of things have changed, most importantly of those things being the 15th anniversary changes which happened in 2022, which made pretty much all of the classes available and the races as well to the free-to-play individuals, as opposed to locking them behind the previous LOTRO coin store. So there's a lot more options on the table now. So let's just kind of dive in and let's look at what you can make in 2023. So I'm on a free-to-play account. So we're going to come in here and we're going to take a look at what we can roll. Now there are still a couple of things that are behind the LOTRO coin store, but for the most part everything is available in 2023. Now the next question a lot of people have is, well, does it still matter in terms of group-based gameplay? And my answer to that is not really. This game has largely been redesigned over the years to be solo-friendly as far as the storyline goes. Now, does that mean that there's no group gameplay anymore? No. What it means is that all the way up to the cap, you're pretty much going to be soloing your way along the journey, unless you happen to be playing one of the new legacy servers that they have coming out from time to time. But in most cases, you're going to be on an older server where the population is heavily geared towards the end game. That's not necessarily a bad thing, that's just the nature of an older game like this one, which has been out for 15 plus years. So with that being said, if you're going to be raiding, then it's going to be important what you think about long term. But if you're just going to be playing by yourself, it's not going to matter, because all of the classes have pretty much been designed and the game has been redesigned so that you can work your way up through the levels without any sort of really challenge that's going to get in your way and keep you from getting to the max level. The other exception to that rule might be if you're rolling with a group of friends in a static group and you're choosing to play the game the way it was originally designed, and you're going to be playing through the book quests as a group, which we have done before. My brother and I with some of our friends, we have rolled up in a static group and gone through the epic quest lines together. That will decide your makeup a little bit more. But the number one most important thing to think about is that if you're going to be playing this game like the vast majority of people, which is playing it sort of as a single player adventure to get a chance to sink your teeth into Middle Earth, it's not going to really matter what class you play in terms of being able to solo or not, because everyone can solo. What does change is the type of class, so the game style that you want to have. So we're going to very quickly break down these classes over here on the right hand side and go through from there. So the Bjorning, which is the first one, it's actually a race and class, so you would need to go over here and pick the actual race that is Bjorning on the bottom left. And it'll tell you that Bjorning is a skin changer that can change into the form of a bear in combat. They focus their wrath while in bear form, choosing to deal grievous blows or bolster their own resolve. While skilled in combat, they're also able to wield their knowledge of wilderness to assist their allies. They can do a little bit of healing as well, but mostly it is a melee class that gets up in there and just does stuff. But apart from that, let's just run down the list here. I'm going to choose a man because it gives me the access to all of these. The burglar hasn't really changed over the years. If you want to roll a burglar, it's not really a thief. This is a debuff class in Lord of the Rings Online, and it is the only class that can reliably trigger a fellowship maneuver, which are the group-based ability chains that you could do, the combos as it were. They still have that at their disposal. It's pretty much a support class. They do DPS, but they are not the best DPS in the game. Like I said, it's mostly about debuffing. Brawler is the one class I have never played, and the reason I've never played it is because it's one of the newer ones that just came out. Oh, if it came out in 2022, it might have come out at the end of 2021 or right around the time of the 15th anniversary in 2022. But the Brawler, that's one of the reasons it's actually one of the only ones locked behind a paywall as of this recording, because it is the newest class that's been added to the game. The Captain is the standard ability that is a standard class that is a support class, which can do backup heals and buffs along with having a companion. They do not do a lot of DPS, although if you go like Redline, you can actually get the Captain to be a somewhat of a medium DPS build, but it takes a lot of time of putting the skill points into the red line to get it to that point. If you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, what red line, each class when you get into the game has 3 different lines. You have a blue line, a red line, and a yellow line. Those are just the actual trees of abilities that you can choose from, the trait trees, and you pick one that's your primary and the other one's your secondary, but it's basically a build. So you have your class and then you have the build for each class, and there's 3 different choices for each class. Red typically is the DPS build for any given class, yellow is traditionally like the support / hybrid, and the blue is the one that's usually like the traditional role for that class back in the day, before they had the ability trees, those trees to choose from. Champion is a dual-wielding melee DPS. It's that simple. There's nothing complicated about the champion. It is 2 weapons and going forth and having a bunch of fun with that. You can choose to spec towards a single 2-handed weapon if you prefer, but pretty much everyone I know likes to go dual wield just because it's really fun and it's flashy. My brother is one of the exceptions to those rules. My brother has a champion that he has played alongside, I believe, my Minstrel, and that character is a 2-handed champion, which is different than what a lot of people play. Then we have the Guardian. Now, the Guardian used to be a protective warrior only. That is no longer the case. Even though they are still traditionally like the best tank in the game, I stand by that. Some people are going to say, no, the Warden is better. I disagree. The Guardian is still the de facto plate-wearing tank with a shield. However, the different lines, the different spec builds that we talked about earlier with the red line, blue line, and yellow line, the red line Guardian is quite deadly. I have one on, we actually were looking at the character selection screen a little while ago. I have a character who is just, the DPS is amazing. And because I'm, in all this plate mail and stuff, I can wade into a group and get like 8 or 9 mobs on me and just sit there and wipe them out. It's great. But traditionally this is the tank build, but you can easily make this a DPS type tank with a sword and shield. Very fun. Hunter is, to this day, still the best DPS in the game in my mind. It's a ranged class. It's also the easiest character class to get around with in terms of fast travel because of all of the teleports you get and the ability to use campfires. So you can set up campfires in different places, but also transport all around the map as you level your way up. So it's a great class if you want to get around quickly and easily and do lots of DPS, but it is a little squishy. So you have to, pros and cons here. I have a Hunter, which is one of my mains that I've played a lot over the years, and I love it. But then we have the Loremaster. My number 1 main, the highest character that I have on any of my servers, is a level 99 as of this recording, Loremaster, who's currently just outside of Minas Tirith. I'm trying to find Faramir right now. The Loremaster is it could do buffs, they could do a little bit of healing. They are, a little bit of crowd control with a pet. They're the only pet class in the game, and the type of pet you have is based on whether you want a tank pet, you can have a DPS pet, you can have a debuff pet. There's all sorts of different animals and beasts that you can have as your pets. They're a lot of fun. This is kind of like the traditional sort of like Radagast Gandalf class when the game first launched before they added the Runekeeper. It's a little bit of alchemy mixed with a little bit of spellcasting with a little bit of just friends of the animals. So it's a lot of fun if you want to play that like traditional, like I said, Gandalf or Radagast style. The survivability is way up there, especially if you've chosen to go down. I'm forgetting now because I don't have it open in front of me. I think it's the blue line. It's the pet line. It's the one where you make your pet as big and buff as he possibly can be. That is the one that I've chosen to spec with, and it makes your pet really, really tanky. It helps you be really, really tanky, and you can basically solo your way through without ever flinching about anything. Maybe occasionally need to do some crowd control because you're not wearing plate, but survivability is really, really good with that. Survivability is good with all of these days, which I kind of mentioned at the beginning of the video, but the Hunter, in my opinion, is one of the squishier ones, along with the Runekeeper, which we'll get to here in a minute. Consequently, they do tons of DPS. Minstrel. I remember when this game first came out, I wrote a guidebook for killer guides way back in the day, and I played a Minstrel during my first playthrough. I actually did a guidebook for the Loremaster as well, but the Minstrel was the very first character I ever played. Now, back in the day, they were only a heal class. these days, you have 3 different stances you can choose from when you're in the game playing the Minstrel. Now, I've done class guides for these classes individually, so if you want to check out like my Minstrel guide or my Hunter guide or those other guides, you can find those here on my YouTube channel. But the Minstrel these days is no longer just a heal class. Not only do you have the stances that you can choose from within the game, you also have the ability lines that you can choose from as well, the builds that you can select, the yellow, red, or blue, but you also have these stances. You have a heal stance that you can sing, you have a middle of the road stance, and then you have a DPS stance. So basically that just means changing the songs that you're singing, and when you choose a stance in game, it will actually change your abilities. So your songs will either become heals, they will then, if you're in the heal stance, you'll do heals. If you're in the medium stance, you'll do a little bit of heals and a little bit of damage. Or if you're in the DPS stance, you'll just do damage. So the Minstrel is probably the most versatile of all the characters you can play, in my opinion, because you can easily ride that balance of doing DPS, being a debuffer, doing heals, and sort of being everything that you need to be for the group without necessarily being the tank, because you won't be able to tank, but you can do all these other things, which make it a very versatile DPS or heals or, you know, utility class. Next up is the Runekeeper, which is the second best DPS in the game after the Hunter. Now, Runekeepers can also either be a DPS or a healer class, depending on which of the lines you go through, but also depending on which of your abilities you use, because they have a meter if you've never played one of these. And again, if you want more information on the specific classes, you can go into the class videos I've done. But essentially, if you're doing damage during a fight, you're building up your damage meter, and if you're doing heals, you're building up your heal meter, and you can't have both meters at the same time. So if you're doing damage and you're not doing heals, you're building that up, but if you switch over to do a heal, you're going to build up your heal meter and your damage will go down. So it works like that during the combat scenarios based on what abilities you're using, but also based on the gear that you're wearing and the spec that you want to run within the builds. It sounds more complicated than it is, but it's the second best DPS class in the game. This was added later on. This is kind of like your de facto wizard class. It's just a nuker or a healer, depending on how you want to play it. And then finally, you have the Warden, which is one of the most pain in the ass classes to play in this game. It can be one of the most rewarding because, again, you could be a tank, you could be a DPS, you could be a healer. You could do many different things with a Warden, but it's all done through combo abilities. And the power of those combo abilities and the style that you choose to play is going to be based on whether or not you go red line, blue line, or yellow line. But essentially, they can work as a tank based on the combos you do. They can do heals based on the combos they do, or they can do damage. Now, I played a Warden when they first came out, and I won't play one anymore because I have old man hands and tendonitis, and these guys are combo heavy. So everything they do is about doing combos of abilities. 3 combos, 4 combos, 5 combos. I can't remember if there's 6 because I haven't played in a Warden in quite some time, but it's all based on doing those combos. So the better you want to be at whatever is your chosen playstyle for the Warden, it's going to be based around the combos that you do. So that, in essence, is the rundown of all of the classes that you can play in Lord of the Rings Online. Here's a look at my Loremaster here, who's a high elf. I've also got, I was saying earlier, I've got my Guardian, who's my second guy, and he's just a badass from Minas Tirith. I love this guy a lot. But I've also got my Hobbit Minstrel, who my brother and I have played with over the years. And I don't know why the screen just went blank as I'm showing this. There it goes. I was afraid I might have to edit the video. But there's my little Hobbit, Donovan, who my brother and I have played with off and on over the years. It's a hell of a lot of fun. I've got a Hunter on another server who's like level 96 or 97, I think. But all in all, I've been playing this game off and on since launch. I love it. There are a lot of different things you can play these days depending on what playstyle you want. Hopefully my video on the classes of Lord of the Rings Online can provide you with a little bit of information on where the game sits as of 2023. It can help you make your choice whether you're a returning player or a new player. If you've gotten to the end and you like what you heard today, do me a favor, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you get more like this as I continue to play this and other games here on my YouTube channel. Don't forget to check out all the other playlists and support if you can. I get to do this full time because of all of these amazing community members. So you could do a membership here on YouTube. There's 3 different tiers. You could also do super chats and stickers on live streams and premieres, super thanks on videos that are uploaded after the fact. There is a Patreon page for our own point-and-click adventure game, tabletop game, and book series. There's a Discord as well. Links are all down below. Until next time, everybody, stay safe and happy gaming.